Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. War with Ukraine, bank outages, and the new dictatorship of Canada. Cryptos getting regulated when everybody told me they couldn't be regulated, and a lot more. Let's get started. Overall, for the week, the biggest thing was the possible war with Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. A lot of finger pointing, a lot of they're going to do this and that. And so that essentially affected the entire market overall. Didn't happen. There was a de-escalation, which was great. And we also had the Super Bowl and the Oscars, which didn't have any pandemic mandates. And by that, I mean the paper that you wear in your face and the little thing that goes in your arm. But don't worry, your kids still have to wear masks and go to school. The Dow for the week went down 1.93%. Obviously, again, due to the war scares. The S&P 500 went down 1.60%, while the NASDAQ went down 1.79%. European markets, Russia was the biggest loser there at negative 4.54%. The DAX, which is the market in Germany, went down the second biggest at 2.54%. Latin America and Canada, mostly negative across the board. Canada going down the new dictatorship, I should say, of Canada went down 2.68%. Africa and the Middle East mixed as well, with Saudi Arabia going up 1.69%. And then in the far East, we have the Hang Seng out of Hong Kong going up 2.37%. Big news in crypto for all of you that said that no, Bitcoin can't be regulated. It's impossible. One of the things I always told you guys from the beginning is I love the idea behind Bitcoin. The idea of it having being decentralized, nobody controlling it. I would absolutely go for it if I actually thought that the powers that be would allow that to happen, which I always told you guys from the beginning. I think blockchain, the technology that cryptos use, is the future, right? FBI has now launched a new virtual asset unit, which focuses on blockchain seizure, keyword, focuses on blockchain and seizure of virtual assets, including cryptos. Another interesting piece of news out of Canada, they were shut down the peaceful protest this week. Cops came in, they're moving the truckers, arresting people to be able to go ahead and liberate the bridge, which is I keep thinking in Spanish. I always do the videos in Spanish first, so I always keep thinking in Spanish. The border crossing, it's called the Ambassador Bridge. So they were clearing out that and clearing out Ottawa. And in the process, they froze bank accounts. And not only that, but they froze crypto accounts across 34 billeteras. I can't believe I'm going to have to do this. Virtual wallets, digital wallets. I was going to actually use the translator to translate it back to English. But I think that's really interesting because everybody said that this couldn't happen because it was decentralized, because it was anonymous, because it was right. And I think this is going to continue to escalate. I don't think this is going to get better in terms of what I call the government coin, right? Russia, even this week, realized the first transactions with their digital ruble after they started testing new platforms. And there was a Canadian Bankers Association white paper, which came out with what's called a federated digital ID. And this is basically you literally on the web. I mean, it's literally, you have a digital ID to get a vaccine, to use your bank, to use the internet. It's probably the introduction of the social credit system, where if you walk across the street with the light being red, they take all your money out of your bank account, right? Because Canada seems like, even Australia, right, with all the crazy lockdowns they've had because of the pandemic, it's coming, guys. The preppers were right. Prepare yourself. Bitcoin for the week is down 5.34%, just a little bit of 42,000, even though I just looked right now when I was recording the video Saturday night, it was under 40,000. Obviously, it goes up and down, a lot of volatility. Commodities. Very interesting thing happened at Walmart. You're probably going to see the picture there in a second. They started locking up meat in metal mesh, literally think of it like a cage, a metal cage. And they put a sensor on the meat, the most expensive meat, so people wouldn't steal it as the crime in the United States is continuing to explode. And what I thought was interesting about this as well is this video was uploaded at a Walmart in Florida, not, for example, where crime is really starting to skyrocket like New York or California or Washington, for example. So things are going to get, the preppers were right. Prepare yourself. European gas prices exploded as much as 14% on Monday, again, with the scare of the possible war between Russia, the Ukraine, and the United States. It drove oil up $100 a barrel. Obviously, this also has to do with inflation, sparking a huge increase in cost of living. And obviously, the consumer spending is always the most important thing when it comes to the economy, right? In the United States, it's almost at 70%. So the entire economy, almost 70% of the economy is you and I going out and spending money. And every other industrialized nation in the world, we're talking about the entire world except most of Africa and then a few countries in Asia, relies literally more than half of people spending money. So if people are spending less money because they don't have as much, because their wages, their income isn't going much as high as what the inflation is, then people have less money to spend and put into the economy. So that means economic recession, economic depression. We're definitely heading in that direction. Oil posted its first weekly loss in 2 months. U.S. crude went down 2.22% to $91.07. Brent, which is international crude, went down 0.96% to $93.54. Good results in gold and silver this week. Gold went up to a 3-month high after the U.S. said that Russia could invade at any time. So it's a situation where if there's a lot of fear, especially for a war, then we have a lot of the precious metals and even oil going up. That's going to put a real big damper on the oil market. But then we also have the stock market going down. So if you guys remember in the beginning of the video, I talked about how the stock market went down, but then a lot of these other markets are starting to go up now, right? And this is also caused due to inflation. Gold and silver, even Bitcoin, which a lot of new people call the digital gold, they're seen as inflation hedges. So people buy these assets to hedge against the rising cost of rising cost of living. Gold went up 2.16%, finally crossed the $1,900 barrier. Silver went up 1.47% at $24.02. Mega drought, I put this in the commodities. I figured water is a commodity. Mega drought is plaguing the drought that we had last year in the Southwest was the worst drought in 1,200 years, say researchers. The two largest reservoirs in North America, which is Lake Mead and Lake Powell, remember they're dams that generate electricity, reached their lowest level in a century. And this, I think, is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Financial and banking news, governments in Germany have announced, the federal government, that they're going to remove their stake in Commerzbank, which is the second largest bank in Germany. So their stocks went down by quite a bit. The product price index, which is the PPI, went up to 9.7% in the United States. That means the price, this is a big number because it's the cost of producing things. So imagine the cost of producing things going up 9.7%, then oil going up over 50% this year, right? And then the cost of the tires to replace the trucks. And then, this is just going to compound on top of itself. And this is why I told you guys that 2022 is going to be a worse year for inflation. Prices are going to go up even more than 2021. So I hope you got your side hustle ready because things are going to get a little bit crazy. So the price producer index, if you don't know what it is I should call it producer price index. I said it backwards. I was saying it in Spanish. It measures the inflation before it reaches the consumers, right? So just the product being produced. China's CPI, which is a consumer price index, so what we pay at the stores or what we pay for the services, went up 0.9% versus a year ago. Their PPI, remember that most things in the world are produced in China. Their PPI went up 9.1%, and their expectations for it to increase 9.5%. So remember that a lot of the inflation numbers that the government is talking about, they're saying 6-7%, when the cost to produce the item is 9%. So remember that those numbers are always not correct. They're always fudged and massaged so the government can look good rather than not looking bad. The UK January inflation came in at 5.5%, which is a 30-year high. The Bank of England also is starting to increase, one of the first central banks to increase the interest rates to be able to go ahead and combat the inflation. Lithuania's central bank, Lithuania is a country on the right side of Europe, the eastern side, close to Russia basically. They're saying that the country is preparing for cyber attacks and power cuts, and they're warning their banks. So now we have another country warning of this. If you guys remember last year, we talked about how the government of Austria was warning their citizens in addition to other countries like Holland. So I don't think this is a coincidence. When you go to the store, buy those cans of food, get about a month or two of food ready. You know, food is expensive right now. Every week, buy a little extra. If I'm wrong, just eat your cans of tuna and be happy. If I'm right, however, it's gonna probably save you. So I'm sure most of you guys have seen the outages, not the outages, but the shortages of food in a lot of the stores. It's gonna get worse. Lithuania they share a common power source from Russia, which is run from Moscow. So that's another reason why they're saying that there might be outages as well, because Russia can just decide to cut off their energy, right? There's European Union regulators are telling banks as well to be able to prepare for cyber attacks. 2 Ukrainian banks, including the largest, were hit by cyber attacks already on Tuesday. The bank run in Canada was pretty severe, causing outages already at banks in Canada as the government was starting to seize and freeze accounts. A lot of people were going to the bank to be able to go ahead and withdraw their money. You guys are going to probably see some tweets here on the video. For those of you guys that are listening to the podcast, you can find the video online on YouTube. Just look for Marcello Arrambide on YouTube and it'll come up, or just, Marcello Trader, or, just the name. You should get there on Spotify or wherever you listen to the podcast. The political news, I already mentioned to you guys the emergency powers about Canada. Prime Minister Trudeau invoked the emergency powers to be able to go ahead and squash the peaceful protesters. He opened up finally the busiest link between the United States and Canada, which accounts for 30% of the $600 billion two-way market, which is the Ambassador Bridge. That's between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario. Russian lawmakers voted on Tuesday as well for Putin to recognize the breakaway regions of Ukraine of Donetsk and Luhansk as independent nations. 13,000 people also have already died since 2014 in the region of Donbass there. So, things have always been a little bit dicey there. Economic news, the Japanese economy grew by 5.4% on an annualized basis based on the results of the Q4 numbers. A lot of the growth was driven by, guess what? Private consumption, which went up 2.7%. More than half of Japan's economy is consumer spending. And the U.S. Commerce Department reported on Thursday that new construction pulled back quite a bit in the month of January. It went down by 4.1%. So the housing market in the United States is worth 15 to 17% of the economy. So now let's just say it's 15%. Now we have 15% of the economy going down by 4%, over 4%. So now you can see that we're starting to have more things that are starting to affect the growth of the economy. Weekly U.S. jobless claims unexpectedly rose last week as well. It ends 3 weeks of improvements after last week 248,000 Americans added their claims there to the United States. In corporate news, Moderna fell by over 11% on Monday after they had losses of $140 billion as insiders and top executives sell millions of dollars in stock. Well, that's unusual, isn't it? I always tell you guys, remember, pay attention to what they do, not what they say. So last year, I did a video, why is Bill Gates selling all the stock? Why didn't Elon Musk start to sell stock when he hasn't sold stock in forever? Bill Gates sold all his stock. Now we have the big wigs, the insiders there, Moderna selling their stocks as well. Why would they sell stock if they're doing so well? They're making billions of dollars with the vaccines. Vaccines are being mandated. Makes you wonder, right? Something's not right there. American Airlines went up by 8% after the war with Russia and the United States de-escalated quite a bit. Also, there's news that the European Union is going to stop requiring a COVID test to be able to enter the border. So I'll tell you guys that in just a moment. Generac Holdings, which is a company that generates generators, produces generators. They went up 14.36% on Wednesday after they recorded that the revenue went up by 50% to $3.74 billion. The revenue for the quarter, just the 3 months ending 2021, went up to 1.07%, crushing the analysts. And so what does this mean? A lot more people are buying generators because a lot of more people are starting to see what's going to come, especially if we have blackouts. The foreign guidance for 2022 is expected to see an increase of 32 to 36%. And I know I had to wait 7 months for one of these generators, and I have two at the Fortress at the end of the world there in the United States. Walmart also went up 4% on Thursday on strong revenue. They had 150, they basically made, I don't know if you guys like to hear the exact number, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to hear them, but essentially they beat expectations. Store and web traffic rose by 3.1%. They gained market share for groceries, and the same store sales climbed 5.6%. Trade news, the price of avocados doubled after this week. The United States stopped all of the imports from Mexico. The vast majority of the avocados that come to the United States are from Mexico. It's a $3 billion a year industry. And one avocado now costs $2.50 at the supermarket when it was just $1.24 in January, just 99 cents in January of 2021. So don't forget to pay a lot more extra for guac at Chipotle. Technology, Virgin Galactic surged higher after they announced that they were going to start selling tickets to go into space to consumers, to tourists. They're aiming at having 1,000 people start to take trips at the end of this year. And the window seat is going to get you a price tag of $450,000. If you have that lying around, the deposit is about $150K, and the stock has collapsed 78% over the last year, but obviously starting to recover quite a bit now. Wednesday, Google said that they're adopting new privacy restrictions so they can track you and they have an advantage in the market instead of selling it to everybody else. Just kidding. That's what I think anyway. They're saying that they're trying to be, everything that these companies say is an absolute lie. So why am I even sharing with you? They're supposedly improving privacy, blah, 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 blah. They're still going to track you just like Apple did. Apple basically cut them off, if you guys remember, from their platform, and they got a little bit upset about it. So now they seem to be doing it to everybody else, essentially. NASA predicts normally that it would take 500 days for humans to reach Mars. But now Canadians at the University of McGill in Montreal, Canada, have developed a new laser-based system that could shorten the trip to just 45 days. So essentially, they would have a laser shooting from Earth to the spacecraft, and then that would allow the spacecraft to get to Mars, in 45 days instead of 500. So maybe you'll be able to get a round trip ticket to Mars a lot sooner than expected. In investment news, CEO Elon Musk is still worth now $227 billion after he made an enormous sale of Tesla stock, $22 billion he sold, but he still owns 17% of Tesla due to the fact that his compensation package is based solely on stock. He only makes $1 a year. U.S. investment giant Blackstone, which is a hedge fund in the United States, cemented their position as the largest residential and commercial landlord on Wednesday. If you guys didn't know, 1 in 7 residential properties, is now owned by Wall Street, just in time for the Great Reset, where you're going to own nothing and be happy. They bought for $5.8 billion over 40 rental units, over 40 rental properties that are 12,000 units in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and in other states as well. But don't worry, you'll be happy. You won't own anything. They'll own everything. You'll just be paying for it and you'll be happy. Don't worry. International events. A lot of countries are closing their embassies in Kiev due to the escalating situations there with the possible war with Russia. German Chancellor met with Putin on Moscow on Tuesday as well to try to de-escalate the situation. And European countries are dropping their COVID-19 pre-arrival testing requirements. And it doesn't mean long-term return to spontaneous travel, as the United States citizens are still going to be required to apply for a visa. It's basically what we make foreigners do in the United States, which is called ETSA. There's going to be called ETIAS, which is a visa waiver. You basically hop online, you fill out some forms, they give you a piece of paper, and then you can come and visit. It's going to start in May 2023, and U.S. citizens as well as 50 other nations are going to require to get this visa. So travel again before the war starts. And in unusual facts this week, Sotheby's auction sold 200 pairs of sneakers for $25.3 million, a record-breaking sum for the Louis Vuitton and Nike Air Force One sneakers that were designed for Louis Vuitton in the spring-summer 2022. Britain's Prince Andrew decided to settle his lawsuit with the young lady that he was accused of. Well, he wouldn't be settling if he didn't actually do it, right? So obviously, the prince was connected to Epstein and the pedophiles. So luckily, she has a little bit of closure. Unfortunately, this shouldn't happen to anybody. And a shark killed a swimmer off Sydney, Australia on the beach on Wednesday, the first fatal attack in more than 60 years. And this is with the government launching all kinds of nets and technology to try to help people, and anything will kill you there in Australia, just so you guys know. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.